I
Yeah.
mean, when I have trouble with motivation, I mean, obviously I go and write a book first,
I
and
mean,
then
clearly
that helps me, get shit done.
yeah, that's the way you do it. Th-
I
There were so
Hey everybody, it's Dove from DKE Toys, and welcome to DKE Toys TV. This is episode 40.
Ooh, is it
Amazing.
really? Holy crap!
Wow.
Yes, we've been doing this for 5 years.
8 years. We haven't even hit 10 episodes a year, but look at us go.
We're here with Janky or Janky Toys or Chris Ryder and Scott Cherry, aka Barbarian Rage. And the man of the hour is Kevin Eslinger.
Hey! Woo!
See, I didn't
Thank
fuck
you.
up your
Thank you.
name.
No, you didn't. That's good. It's.
But I think I fucked it up on every other show.
I don't think you did. I think you're worrying about that, and I don't think. I think you're worried too much. It's not even spelled correctly. It should have two S's in it, but some illiterate person along the way didn't realize that somebody had dropped it on a document, and now we have one. Because there's a city over in Germany that has. This is incredibly boring, but it's Eslinger.
Wait, but is it
all
two S's or is it an S set? Do we get the double S set?
It's an S set.
There we
it's
go.
an S set. So yeah, that looks too foreign to the early English people, and so they took an S out of my name, and I became Eslinger. So
Wow. Amazing.
And that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Hope
yeah,
you enjoyed.
that's boring.
The etymology of Kevin's name. And
yeah.
see you next time on episode 41 where we discuss
some other person's unknown name. So yeah, okay.
So I don't know where we start. Like you've been on a couple other shows when we do the decon recap shows where we have, a dozen artists each on for like 15 minutes. And I don't know, we wanted to have you on for so long, and we sort of were on hiatus for a little while, and then finally you're here.
Well, can I just say, it's not just that we wanted to have you on, but every time we had you on, immediately after going off, Scott and I are both like, we got to get Kevin back on here. We got to get wild
There's
with
so
Kevin.
much to talk about. So
yeah, I wanted to take it down a notch and not jump the conversation because we have like more. But yeah, I can be weird and talk about weird stuff. So I usually get pretty. It's very anxiety. Like the little bits that you do for the DK or the designer con. You have like 15 minutes or something. So it's
right.
like I want to slam in this story in 15 minutes. So I just come off like really crazy each time. I think so.
I mean, the company you're with is framing that in a way that we're helping that.
I'm not in my Toys R Us shirt, or I'm not in a vest, so I'm trying to just keep it like I was gonna get like a button down or something, but I was like, no, this is what I've been working in all day long. Just be honest.
The Toys R Us outfit was awesome, by the way. So we have a long history. You knew of me. We met, but like back in the
Vader
day,
Project.
and
Project days.
I had no idea who you were, and we talked one day, and you're like, I know, I don't know. I got back in touch with you looking for muscle figures somehow, and then you're like, you don't realize like I've known you for 20 years.
Bag of muscle.
If anyone has muscle figures, Kevin loves muscle figures. He will buy your muscle figures from you.
I don't know about that. I think we're dying off. I think the muscle collectors have peaked.
Have they really?
Of like going. I don't know.
Well,
like
this
guy doesn't have his collection anymore.
As an artist and someone who does stuff, he has one of those things I always wanted to get was, what's that little bath that you put the thing in and it shakes?
Yeah.
What do you call that thing? An
ultrasonic cleaner.
So that's what like jewelers have, like, so you can take your rings and jewelry, put it in, and it uses like ultrasonic whatever, and then all the dirt falls off.
Yeah.
Well, this magical dude here takes his muscle figures that are all dirty and beat and puts them in there, and then they come out like they're brand new because all the
Yep.
dirt that's stuck in the rubber has all just dissipated. And then he buys them from me for nothing and sells them for millions of dollars.
That's my entire income right now. It's just muscle figures.
Just muscle figures.
I like that. That
Mm-hmm.
also looks like you could deep batter fry them in that though too. Just get them in a nice little panko batter, toss them in there, and
Yeah, it's
Buffalo
almost
nuggets.
it's probably the same tooling, and they just use it for ultrasonic cleaners and frying.
and fry baskets.
Yeah,
Amazing.
personal fryer. Yeah.
So back in the day, and this was like the story you like. So did we meet at Master Replicas back in the day?
That was the first time. The first time I saw you or met you, you were in my boss's office, the CEO's office at Master Replicas,
And this is like 2004.
because you were searching for helmets for the Vader project. You were
Right.
looking for, and like the sales guy came into my room. I'll just do the condensed because I told it here, but the sales guy came into my room where I was working, and he was all frantic. I describe it as George Costanza kind of energy. He's like, there's this guy. He's named after a bird, and he's in the CEO's office, and he wants 200 Vader helmets, and we were having trouble making like I think 10 a week at that point or something. And I'm like, what the, So I'll burst in, and then you explain the Vader project and what it was, and then I'm like, and you name the artist that you're like, oh, you said that you wanted artists to do it, kind of, and I was like, to paint the Vader sculptures in whatever way that they wanted. And the only project that I could think of at the time that had that was the Cows on Parade from Chicago. And I'm like, I was like the Cows on Parade, and you were like, yeah, it's kind of like that, but I was going to use like current artists. I'm like, yeah, what artists are you going to use? Well, and then you started listing all these, artists from LA, like the pop surrealists and stuff that I knew about. And I'm like, oh shit, this guy's legit. And, you're going to get 200, you're going to get 200, you're going to get 200, yeah, you're going to get 200 Vader helmets from my boss. The other side of the story is yours, but yeah, it was a crazy mess, but we ended up just dumping it on you at Comic-Con, 2006 or 2005, and we just said, like, there's a $20,000 bill here. You can have your pavilion and all the helmets if you just pay it and go away.
Right.
And
so we started working on it. Sarah and I were sending out the helmets to artists, and it was Star Wars Celebration 2007. Right.
It wasn't 2007 because I was gone. So it wasn't been that.
Yeah, but 2007 was when it was in LA. So that's when the show. Did you go to that show?
There was a Comic-Con that, like, I think my boss just like gave you at this, like, a Star Wars pavilion at San Diego Comic-Con.
No,
and I think
that was later.
That was later.
Yeah.
Okay. Then my memory's good.
5 or 6 helmets. It was whatever year Star Wars Celebration was in LA. Who's ever out there on a computer Googling stuff. That's when we premiered the show. And I think we had 66 out of the 100 artists there. And I think it was because Master Replicas had, so those of you who don't know, go to vaderproject.com. We have also catalogs available, which I could show you here. You're looking at it right now. See it? And then we ultimately got to 100 artists, but there were 66 at that show. And Master Replicas, for some reason, for a very good reason, they had a dispute over their royalties with Lucasfilm. How is that?
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah,
I believe the story was that the CEO of Master Replicas at the time, not going to name him here, or told the head of licensing at Lucasfilm to go fuck himself.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
And that was over, I believe, a several $1 million advance that just was, I don't know, not sure what the motivation was. I think Hasbro was really upset about the The FX lightsaber, because
Yes.
it was such a great lightsaber. Like it for $100, you got this the closest thing to a real lightsaber that you would ever get. This thing that made sounds, it lit up, it was it did the whole thing. And then the story I heard before when they were trying to get the license was that when Master Replicas presented the prototype to Lucasfilm, they said, absolutely not. We're going to get lawsuits. People are going to get hurt. And they said it's unbreakable.
Mm.
And the story I heard was the woman in licensing at Lucasfilm was taking it and just like bashing it against the desk. And eventually, like chips of the wood desk came out, but the lightsaber was fine. And they said, okay, you could do it. Hasbro being the company that was probably represented. I'm going to just take a guess. No one has told me this number. I'm going to say 75 to 80% of Lucasfilm's licensing every year. And then it's like all the 20, 30 other companies or 50, 100 other companies are vying for the other 20, 25% of the market. Hasbro,
I heard it was like 80-20. That's always it was
80,
always my boss wanted, because he wanted to get a master collectibles license,
right.
and the same guy that told Lucasfilm to go f himself, the whatever, he wanted to go get a master collectibles license
Right.
from these companies, because he was saying, like, you have one toy producer, Mattel or Hasbro, that does 80% of your business, and then you fool around with 40 or 50, other small companies to drone out all the rest of your license. If it was under one master collectibles license, then you'd have a much stronger
But
collectibles program. But
and they
that's
couldn't.
not how.
Hasbro had just complete autonomy to do whatever they want. And that's why there was no remote control, mouse droid, because they had the remote control license, and there was never like there couldn't be Hot Wheels or Barbies because that was the competition. That was Mattel. There's so many things that just couldn't exist, and the FX lightsaber was so popular. I remember just walking around Star Wars Celebration, everyone was buying one, and they
Mm-hmm.
still work to this day. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
not, but eventually Hasbro horned in on them and produced them, I believe. And
Well, yeah, the two things happened. Well, Brian Ono, the guy from EFX that he passed away during COVID, he was the
Mhm.
one that originally developed the first prototype. I actually have some of the scraps of the first prototype ever made of the EFX, or the EFX lightsaber.
and
And
just as
it's
an
all
aside,
Brian.
Brian's company EFX sort of took over where Master Replicas
Kind
left
of. Yeah, they
off.
just took all the product plan that we were going to do and just did it themselves when, yeah, the company imploded
Right.
through the triple merger, which was a stupid idea. It was with Corgi. It was all
Mm.
part of like a larger meltdown. And I left the company during that time too, which it's incredibly like, boring politics stuff. But, Michael had high ambitions, and we had gone from being, bankrupt, to 50 million within the span of 2 years. And it was largely based upon the EFX lightsaber and the sales during the Revenge of the Sith. So we really took advantage of the marketing on that. And Brian Ono developed the EFX lightsaber. There was a couple of project managers that tried to do it and get the line up and running at the factory. And I won't mention any of their names, but they were instrumental in developing kind of those initial runs. The company went bankrupt. We got new investors. A lot of the management went away, and then another guy from Leapfrog came in, or he was already there, but we were all jobbed in wrong jobs and got repositioned, and he was head of he'd gotten hired from Leapfrog, and then he helped really develop the line to where it is basically to this day. And but Brian Ono told me that he had told Michael because Brian Ono has a long history in toy. He did a lot of World of Warcraft figures. He was like a toy consultant that bounced around all over these different places. So he always had the consultant gig with Master Replicas. He's just like, I'm on consult. They pay for everything for me. They pay for my hotels. They pay for my flying, and I just get paid, consultant fees, not a employee fee. So he consulted for a lot of other companies too. But Brian Ono told me that he had put together the patent for the EFX lightsaber because it did use like kind of a chain of LEDs in a way that was patentable. And the CEO of the company just decided never to pursue it. So it was more opportune for Lucasfilm to back the CEO into a corner to get him to say, F you guys, and give that intellectual property rights to Hasbro that just develop it. And since we didn't own a patent for it, it was all Lucasfilm at that point. And so they just needed to know where the factory was that was making it. And that was soon discovered because I put out a video online that had the factory tour on the inside of it, which I heard everybody was pissed off about me doing that. But
you outed them.
So you think that it was very much planned by Lucasfilm, like Hasbro wanted that, and Lucasfilm wanted them to have it, and so the situation they put Master Replicas in was specifically to, because if you said they had $50 million in sales, like why couldn't they come up with an advance on a product that would sell gangbusters forever? I mean, but the problem was like the Master Replicas lightsaber at $100 could not be sold to Toys R Us.
Right.
That was the problem. Like you couldn't sell it to Walmart or Kmart or Target at the time.
No, and Andrew Wynn, like I said, he was a guy that came from Leapfrog, so he had a lot of experience with mass market products, and so he was actually kind of frustrated by some of the constraints and of like material usage that was required.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't make it seem like a toy because then that competed with Hasbro. So we did have to keep a high-end feel to it. Otherwise, it starts being a toy. But they were asking us to do stuff. They called it the Joe Jedi set, which is now when you go to Disneyland, that whole station where you put together a lightsaber. I actually did some first like concept art for the Joe Jedi set and how you would put the hilt together in different ways. And we actually had prototypes of that at Master Replicas towards the end too. So that's where we were headed as a company, to like kind of have this mid-tier one that we could get like a Joe Jedi set where it could retail maybe for $99 on, but so it was more than a toy and it had parts to it and an interchange. So we were trying to convince Lucasfilm for that. But I also think there's a difference between like a windfall product and an evergreen product, and really the $50 million company that Master Replicas was, it was a windfall. So we weren't, and Michael, the CEO, had it in his mind that we were going to be $150 million in a few years. So that's why he wanted to do this merger with a distributor and Corgi. And Corgi had more of a mass market. So he was making all these deals to become kind of a master collectibles company. And I think if it would have worked out financially, Lucasfilm would have kept it. I don't think it did, because we were always robbing from Peter to pay Paul to make a bigger deal here, and so it was bound to be a house of cards at some point. Versus the reason why I left the company is I felt like when I was in charge of Disney product, and I felt like I had a good $5 to $8 million brand underneath me. And I was like, why can't we just be like maybe a $15 to $20 million company after Revenge of the Sith? Star Wars comes back down to a more reasonable level, and forget this idea of like triple merger. And it was like, it just was a difference in vision for the company moving forward. It turns out I was right.
And that's always nice when you get that.
That's the most important.
The company imploded like 2 years after I left, and for the exact reason it was just too much to bite off.
I was
those
right and he's
lightsabers
dead, so fuck you.
were those lightsabers like? Are they? Is it the same technology that they use for the ones they sell at Disneyland now? Those replica versions?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same, and it's most likely a new factory now. But I had heard through the grapevine that Hasbro did work with the factory that did it, and it was a company that I guess had worked with Leapfrog and stuff too. But I don't know if they're even around anymore. So
There's a lot of licensed products in the world, right?
can't really tell.
You don't often get like a great licensed
Just blowing
product
out the screen right now.
with like a fantastic piece of technology at the same time. You know what I mean? And that it has like the nostalgia from your youth. Like it just.
This is that box on top. So.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
It's master replicas. So there's a box of all these test boards that this is let me see if I can get that. That's how it was configured.
Oh.
Those are LEDs, and they all light up sequentially.
That's pretty. And then it just diffuses the light.
And
wow,
they
right, because it's
created all these demo boards to figure out the electronics like this. And those were all, Brian Ono's work.
Wow,
as far as I know.
Brian was the nicest guy, and even after, my issues with Master Replicas, he was always like so kind to me. Like every time I saw him, he was just like the nicest dude, and it was unfortunate that he passed away. So I think that where this story is headed is that I think number one. Okay, so here's, for anyone who doesn't know, this is the Vader Project. And there was 100 life-size Darth Vader replicas that we sent out to 100 artists, and they're all, I don't know. Was sort of like a who's who of the artists that were big in the toy scene at the time. Frank Kozik, Shag, like all these. I don't. Anyway, these are on our website.
It's such a cool book. It's such an
amazing
awesome book. Yeah.
And the reason we went with Freeman's is because they allowed us to have a standalone catalog, and they allowed us to have 2 pages per helmet, because the other auction houses wanted one photo, and like, how do you show this? Some of these you can do in one photo, but I had to have one page with the turnarounds on one side and then one creative shot on the side. So with 100 helmets, it made it made a 200-page book.
It's such a cool book.
Yeah.
Here's one of the greatest ones in the show there.
Awesome.
So I guess the moral of this story, before we sort of like wrap it up, is in part I have Kevin to thank for helping DKE accomplish probably the greatest art show that we will ever be associated with, because I can't imagine, while I have other plans for other art shows in my lifetime, I do not think that anything will ever capture sort of be the right place at the right time, the zeitgeist of whatever's going on, and create such a massive storm that we created, showing the show in 3 continents with, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people who saw the show. And, it was just, anyway, so the quick part of the story, how all of these confluence events led to this, is that Master Replicas had roughly 100 helmets that were all messed up and they couldn't sell, correct? And
Yes.
they gave us helmets that were sitting in China that were primed gray, but there was
Yes.
something wrong with them that they couldn't turn them into the final replica, correct?
I kind of remember it that way. I don't.
That's the story I was told, and it's just like
Yeah.
how magical that you show up to a company, you say like, "Hey, I have this great idea," and they love the idea, and it's like, "Oh, we happen to have 100 fucked up helmets that we can't do anything with."
We've got garbage you can turn into art.
Yes.
Okay. So the way I kind of remember it was that they were just going to. It was a way to sell more helmets without actually having to, up the edition size, because they only wanted to have a certain number that were done at this premium level. And so I think the economics of that was like they would do 2,000 units, and we had so many people on our collectors list at that point. And then, so it was a way to kind of like do 2,100 units and not have to up the edition size and lower the value per. And it was like, well, look, we can just give them to them primered gray. So, and that's the way it kind of came down the pike to me of like, but it might've been too, cause I know we were trying to get Sideshow Collectibles molding and casting facility, Chepstow, to do it for us. And we finally talked to Chepstow and they agreed to do it. And so it might have been that it was started by one factory, and then that's the ones that you've got, and then it moved over to Fred Tang's factory. So
Nice. And so as the story progresses, the deal between me and Master Replicas is we're splitting this. They're going to front these upfront costs, and this was going to be, because this was a promotional for a licensed product. Everyone was on board, and then there was the problem that they had with Lucasfilm, and then overnight they didn't have a license. Their 16 booth island that was supposed to be at Star Wars Celebration at the LA Convention Center, like they weren't showing up.
Jeez.
And well, I had the space, like Kevin was saying, I was out of pocket. Like, I don't know, it was probably about 20 grand. And they just said, like, hey, if you pay the bill, you can have the show. It's yours. We don't want to have anything to do with it. And they gave me a little paper to sign, and I was like, yippee!
Wow.
And unfortunately, most of that was just labor for staffing that room at the show.
Wow.
Like there was like 6 days, like having 5 or 6 people, 10 hours a day. Like there was just hundreds of hours of labor, the setup and tear down and all that kind of stuff. But once they started booking it for their other shows, then they had volunteer staff, and we never had to, like, at that point, they paid us for the show to go there, and then it started to make money, which was great. And then the rest is sort of history. It sort of traveled the world, and unfortunately, another story that I don't want to get into, which was I don't know what you want to call it, being not on the same page with Lucasfilm, because now this was no longer a project that was for a licensee. I was just this guy, Dove. And anytime I go meet with corporate people and I'm just some guy, Dove, I'm just sort of, I think people just view me sort of as like a loose cannon. And really what they want to
That's how
do
I
is
view you.
they want to like just sort of like reel everything in a controllable way. And we booked a show at the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh. And then that was sort of the end of it, where relationship broke down. And not sure I want to talk about it here and call people names and do
you
any of
fast
that.
forward, I ran into you like in I think it was 2016.
I just got steamrolled there. Did you see that?
No, well,
Go ahead.
you can go into the sad story in between. We both have our sad stories that we could go like in between
In
the rise and fall.
2016, yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
on.
yeah. We were in New York Comic Con, or like, yeah, I think it was 2016 and 2015.
Mhm.
We sat across from one another, like our booths were facing one another. You had a 20-foot booth, I had a 20-foot booth, and we sat there across from one another the entire time. I think I
And
was
you,
pissed off the entire time because I had gotten moved to this side, and I so
right.
I had also entered like this 10-year period of Carney, so I left the toy development world, right, and then I started selling my own artwork in a booth on the street. Then I started going into Comic Cons, and then that's where we meet again. Or
Now,
not meet.
so
No, we just saw each other at that show.
so I
Or
remember we spoke, we were next to each other, but did you tell me like, hey, like I knew you from Master Replicas?
remember me? I was the first step on your Vader project years
Did
ago.
you? I don't recall. That's something I would have remembered. I
If Dove
think
had if
you
Dove had $1 for every time someone walked up to him and said, "Remember me from blank," like he'd be a very
Yeah,
because
wealthy man. So
you had
yeah.
like I would never have put two and two together. You had a booth with all these awesome paintings, like all this splatter and stuff everywhere, and like all these prints and originals, and it's like from whatever R&D and stuff you were doing at Master Replicas to this like gallery that you set up at these shows, like that was just completely different. Like I never I never connected the two, and nor do I think did you ever point it out.
No, I don't think I did because
What? Why not?
I
We had
felt like
history.
I I don't know. I don't. Looking back at it, I don't know why. There's. I'm also selling artwork at a Comic Con, so obviously there's some developmental challenges that I suffer from. So, um,
I
yeah,
don't,
I think I was just being awkward, and
mm,
I remember being really pissed off at that show that
mm.
I didn't want to come up with you with that energy too. Um,
Was that the year where they uh Reed, the New York Comic Con promoter, got in a fight with the Clutter people who were curating, and they put us all behind that big black wall in the back of the room?
yeah,
That was that year.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I had such a good. I was in the center, the absolute center of New York Comic Con. I think 2015 or whatever,
Mhm.
and I had a really great show. So I went and I paid for my booth in cash at the show, and I'd done that at a lot of other Comic Cons. And then by the time everybody started getting their other booths and stuff, I started hearing, "Oh, this person got their booth." And then I started seeing the map, and I wasn't on it. I asked, like what happened to my booth? And it's like, and you could tell that they had like totally just forgotten it, misplaced the money, and they're like, no, we have a booth for you. And I was like, wait a minute, it's not even close to where I was before. So
Mm.
it's like such a weird thing to be all angry about, but it does. I mean, the shows I was
It,
living
it,
off of shows at that
there's
time.
so much invested in doing a show that
It's
that
$10,000 just for me to get to New York and set up a
yeah,
booth,
it's like
and
to have them not place you well, can make or break your performance at
well,
the
and
show, and it's just
oopsie, we
yeah,
took the money and forgot you is not an okay response for anything.
right.
So
yeah.
All right,
like
so you weren't even caught up in the fight between Clutter and Reed, because Clutter was uh they were the ones curating the it had a name, like the area with all the designer
Yeah,
toys. And
yeah.
then Reed found out that they had their own show up in New York, um which is happening like in another week or two, right? Um what's the show called?
5 points.
5 Points, yes.
Mm.
And but was it called 5 Points at the time?
In 2016,
Yeah, I believe so.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was called 5 Points. And then they for some reason Reed was pissed that they had their own show, and they had every intention of doing New York Comic Con and curating that and then having their show later in the year, but someone at Reed decided that like this was not okay and screw these people, which
Mm.
made no sense because they could have had all of us still there at New York Comic Con, but then they went out of their way, at least it seemed like on the surface. I'm not, don't quote me on this and publish this as fact, but it seemed to me, and no one has confirmed this, this is my opinion, okay? Read people. It seemed passive aggressive that there was this huge wall of this one island of this booth with this thing, and it was this crazy black wall. It was like 10 feet tall, and then the whole designer toy thing was in the corner behind that. And it was like, wow, this is where, like, I don't, did I
It's
do
less
Sound like
passive,
passive
more
aggressive. That's
Yeah,
aggressive
yeah.
aggressive.
this is aggressive aggressive. So anyway,
Well,
read it.
the detail I remember was like the bathroom, like just it was an unserviced on a regular basis bathroom at the Javits, and that smell just kind of wafted over the entire area the entire time too.
we
So
can
it was
we
a
can
bad
talk
corner, and yeah.
we could talk about New York and their bathroom situation for
But
hours. Like, I mean, when you go to San Diego Comic Con, at every entrance and exit, there's a set of double bathrooms, right? And so for 100,000 people, there's literally like 50 bathrooms, maybe more. And for the entire Javits Center, there's literally like 3 bathrooms, like a mile apart, and there's a line to get in there, and it's just as he was saying, and I like no zoning, licensing, whatever inspector person in Los Angeles would ever allow a building designed for so many people to have so few bathrooms. But for some reason, New York and their bathrooms is just weird, man.
Someone made a little money on the side for that decision.
I don't know. I don't understand it. It's like,
So
sort
then
of,
years go by, I think then, and I was listing some muscles because I'm an action figure nut. And I had listed muscles on eBay, and then you bought some, and I'm like, I only know one Dove Kelmer, so so I think it's this guy that I knew, and it's funny. I run into that a lot, though, like selling toys. It's a lot of kind of collectible industry people that end up collecting it now too. So it's a bunch of guys our age that have worked in the industry. I buy style guides every once in a while too on eBay, and I'll run into it's like the same guys collecting those too. So and it's fewer and fewer each year, I think too. So as we get older, so
These are all common things we talk about every week.
Yeah.
The incestuous nature of our shrinking market.
wow.
Yeah. So then, and you told me what you were working on at that point, and then you were talking about, how you do this action figure release each year, and so I kind of got on your Instagram a bit more, and I was watching it for a while, and then I had this opportunity to get on Ancient Aliens and squeeze in some of my own action figures into that show, and it all got cut. And I was like, well, I'm jumping the story, but okay. So I worked on it for months and months and months and did all this. I got taken out to LA, and they shot a bunch of stuff with me. I had developed all these prototypes in association with this site called Pumapunku in Bolivia. And I made them all, like I made the entire site of Pumapunku in Kenner action figure size. And so I had like 3 action figures that I made for the show, just to show on the show. No other alternative like commercial idea of like, oh, these action figures will be on a spot on Ancient Aliens, and then I could sell them potentially later on.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. You're sort of just glossing over, So you made this thing, this world 3 3/4 inch. I mean, how big was it? I saw the photos. Like you're saying like I
Oh,
just made this thing, for action figures. It's like
oh, the
no, it's not
Kin-
just
Kinner size, yeah, it's the size of that USS flag. So
This is no
it's
shoebox
a.
diorama. This is
no.
that's
I
a
saw the
legit
I had it at Designer Con and it fit on an 8-foot table, and it just
Yeah.
barely fit on an 8-foot
Right.
table.
Wow.
It was
It has
huge.
it has 170 pieces, and then I made a couple of action figures. The alien was for the show. The platform prince figure that's it was for the show too. He was my Vitruvian man, and then I made a Tiwanaku citizen as well. So, and I had them all on film too. And so there's a difference in height of a person who lived at Pumapunku than like European. So like the average Tiwanaku was 4'9", but I had them all Kinner size, and we shot the whole thing. A week before the show came out, I heard that I was cut from all my parts were cut from the show. Everything I did was cut. So, but they wanted to thank me for it. So, but then I had already started to like. In the meantime, kind of get worked up to release the figures with Dove for Designer Con or DKE Toy Con in, was it 2024 or 2020?
And
Yeah,
here
2024.
it is.
Yeah.
Could that
But
be
no,
it?
this 2024 was at Designer Con. It's
No, the 2025 then maybe. I don't know. No, because
No,
that's
this
one
was
I did last year.
Yeah, this was 2024.
2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did premiere it at, like we sold them online and then, we took them to the show. But yeah, because the little section that we have is called DKE Con at DCon, but it's confusing. But anyway,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got
here's
that
the
wrong.
figure. And it's on our site now. It's an edition of 10. There's only a few left. It's $50. Look at it.
I'm genuinely surprised there's any left because
I
the
know.
detail on that figure is bananas.
And then this, my favorite little details, obviously.
Yeah.
That's-
Throwback to the Eslinger at Toys R Us time.
And this is a real Toys R Us sticker, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's an actual one that I signed and hand numbered on each one of the units. So
How many of these?
and
do you
then
have left?
it's
Duff wants to buy your Toys R Us stickers.
stickers.
I'm just asking.
I have there's 100 on a roll, and I think I have like 7 rolls left in my
We're gonna have a
stash.
conversation after
So,
the filming stops. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
We're gonna start pricing stuff and trying to like commit fraud and take them back to the store.
Yeah. Oh, okay. They use a different sticker now in the store. They have a Colorado Toys R Us that opened over the winter as like a pop-up store, but it's still open, and they don't have the orange stickers on there anymore. So
Bullshit.
details.
Yeah.
They don't-
Terrible story about just the world we live in and Toys R Us, going bankrupt over some corporate raiders just, buying a company that was totally doing well, trying to fuck it over to like rape it for money and then force it out of business to make even more money. And it's what happened to them should be illegal. It's all those people lose their jobs, and just for a few people who just manage to have enough money to leverage to get one person to make enough money to I don't know. It's just
100% agree. So
Yeah. bad news. All right, so then.
So, well, let me just say
more story. Go.
Well, yeah, the alien figure actually goes. I worked for McFarlane before I worked for Master Replicas, and so I sculpted that alien guy when I was working for McFarlane, and I was always going to make an action figure of it. I didn't do it. I came out with a bust years ago of it, and that was the first time I actually had my company, Lucky Onion, with my wife. So we made toys at first. And I went behind McFarlane's back, and I went and contacted the manufacturers that I was working with. Said, can you moonlight and make some stuff for me too? Because I'd like to sell it. And so, yeah, this one got into Diamond Comics like maybe 2002. to 2003. So I sold it in the comic book shops back then.
Nice.
And while I was working at McFarland, and I always wanted it to be an action figure. So like finally getting to do it as an action figure and release at least 10 in the way that I saw and a vision for like when I was in my 20s was kind of cool. So yeah, that's the one I did with you last year. So
Nice. All right. So then I'm going to get scolded here again. Fast forward to 2025. You release the platform prints. Also, this one's edition of 15, also with the little Toys R Us sign and number sticker. But in addition, you wrote a fucking book, dude.
Which you get for free with the goddamn figure.
And you get the So there's just a few of these left. So if you're watching this, go to dketoys.com, click on the store link. It's $20 for this signed and numbered figure, and you get a first edition of this book signed by Kevin here, free. And yeah, dude. That's
So I wanted to ask if the toy was a Trojan horse for the book.
Or is the book a Trojan horse for the toy? Or is there a third Trojan horse level that's still coming?
The book came first. The working it into the toy was second, because that was actually it's just a figure that I've had as like when I work on the computer, it's like a base figure to judge monuments and stuff by. I call him my Vitruvian man, and Vitruvius was like the guy who wrote the book on architecture in I believe it was Greek times, and that's what Michelangelo was using to kind of do his work.
I was gonna say, it looks like David, right?
Yeah. I took the head of David, the 3D scan that's free to the. Yeah, minus the penis.
Out.
So
smoothed it out.
I took the head.
The penis costs more. The head is free. The penis.
I took the head and the hands and the feet from the statue of David and mixed it with a 2003 scan from a now defunct company that used to do full body scans for me when I worked at a toy company. So yeah, there used to be I used to work at also General Giant, and then there was two other companies that did that same type of thing, full body scans in the early 2000s, and so the full body scan came from 2003, one of the first ones that I'd ever seen. So it's just kind of and I just thought it would be such a weird thing. It's like in a plastic too that can last 1,000 years. So it would be a really weird thing to dig up in an archaeology site of that would be specific to our time. Of okay, it's using 3D tech, and whether or not that the future people would think that it's very basic or not understand it. Did we regress in time and go back to caveman days, and this is such a weird object now, or is it just oh, this is one of the first one of those where it was a scan and a scan put together. So
given, and we haven't gotten there yet, and we're about to, but given the content of the book, it's really interesting that you used an old scan, like an old body scan of a person to represent the figure. Okay, we got to get into this because there's layers of depth here that are peeling off, that are becoming more fascinating the further we go into this. So
cool. So I
correct that. Sorry.
No, I think the book's kind of written kind of like Machiavelli's The Prince, which was written around the same time, a little bit before Michelangelo. They were kind of contemporaneous. I think Michelangelo came second, but Machiavelli came first. But both are kind of addressing in a world that is changing, going from this feudalism kind of power to this there was still feudal power, but it was you could become an individual star or individually rich through capitalism. So like this emerging capitalism was causing a new form of power to emerge out of the feudal world. And so Machiavelli wrote this kind of instruction guide. And that's why he said it was like to the prince. He was already exiled from Florence at that time. And so he was writing this book as like an offering to the prince of Florence at the time. And saying like, this is how you need to think about power in the past and how you need to think about power moving forward. And this is all that I can offer you as a political strategist myself. And it turns out that like a lot of what he predicted, it all came true, and it kind of got associated with like the negative effects of like how people or it got associated with like the negative effects or the negative scheming that it naturally occurs in a capitalist society.
Politics.
And yeah. And so I think now, like in this digital age, and there's another guy who coined this term. I was sitting there, I was like, I was thinking to myself before I knew that this guy existed and had already thought all these thoughts, and I'm just a basic bitch. But like, there's this guy Yanis Varoufakis, and I think he was like a Greek economics advisor or an economics advisor to Greece, and he came up with the term techno-feudalism, and that's what I was feeling. Like, are we going out of this society where it was about capitalism, and because everybody's talking about the death of capitalism, whether you're on one side of it or the other, and then what's the future look like? And I think it's the platform. Our day-to-day life is on these different platforms, and so I think that's very similar to the relationship of kings and their subjects. You have this ring around a city and a castle that's like has a leader in it. But like, say like the Lego website, they try to get all their fans to be on like the Lego site. And if you don't use Legos in your builds, you can't be a master builder. So it's almost like you have your peasants, and then you have your higher end lords with like the master builders, and then the owners of Lego.com are the ones that are actually the kings or the sovereigns. And every company right now is really thinking about platform. You go to the grocery store, Kroger's got you on their platform. You go to get gas, sometimes the gas and the grocery store are working together, and they both want you on the platform. You go online, where this is ultimately going to go out and be on a platform. And so like, I just felt like, moving forward, if I was going to be an artist, so I'm sitting there kind of pining about all this stuff, and I had this series of paintings called like dystopian selfies. Some of them are over there, and one's on the cover of the book, and it's these glitchy portraits that I do, and it's kind of like just looking at computer glitching and doing my own painting off of computer glitching. And I felt like we're entering this, we're entering a period where art is so easily made by AI. Like, I needed to have a reason or a thesis statement to kind of sit down and paint anything to be even motivated. Like, this is what I'm trying to get across. And so the epilogue of the book was my original kind of like, this is my thesis for even like getting up and trying to paint. And then I wanted something to go into that. And so I was thinking about this idea of the platforms that we're on, and then wrote the book to kind of be a sandwich to my ultimate thesis of like wanting to be motivated to paint. So the book was actually written initially as a thesis to just motivate me to do artwork.
So you Trojan horsed yourself with the
This is layers of meta on that. So
I mean, when I have trouble with motivation, I mean, obviously, I go and write a book first,
I
and
mean,
then
clearly,
that helps me, get shit done.
yeah, that's the way you do it. That,
I
there were so Scott and I started a book club. We're
Yeah.
gonna read. We're gonna read the book. Admittedly, I have not finished it yet. I'm about 115 pages into it. There
Oh,
were
cool.
some things that I did not expect that came out of what you wrote. And I don't want to give away because I want people to read the book. So I don't want to give away all the stuff in there, but
Yeah, I
there
thought it
were
was amazing.
things that you talked about with the storytelling aspect of controlling the narrative and being the storyteller and being the person controlling the story that hit so deeply home with what I feel right now about politics and capitalism and life in this country and the world together, that I had a bit of a more profound experience reading the book when you really got into the story side than I thought I was going to have. Um, because you really dug into whoever controls the narrative controls the flow of information. And whether
Mhm.
it's true or not, it doesn't matter who's writing the narrative. And if you have the ability to get your narrative to the audience, you now control the pipeline of information.
Well, it's
Um,
not only that, it's also, how Machiavelli originally wrote, you know, this is how you get away with a lie,
right.
Mhm.
like, and if you can, signal boost this lie and get enough people to, uh, like Brexit, Brexit is a perfect example, or Donald Trump. I mean, everything sort of goes back to Donald Trump. If you talk about power, Machiavelli, or whatever. But I mean, but it's true because in platform prints, what you're saying is about controlling the narrative is it it literally does pick your political everything in politics, because all of your political campaigning is done on Facebook, Instagram, is done on all the platforms.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But
A
they
true
blame,
social.
if you want, there's a documentary I saw. I'm sorry I can't
No,
identify it now, but they really credit um the ability for Russia to buy ads on Facebook to creating sort of the fervor about Brexit to begin with. And afterwards, it's always sort of like about that. That was, when it was easier back in the day, like the first election I voted in was with Bill Clinton and George Bush and NAFTA. Remember? And they pushed across NAFTA,
yeah,
and there was just sort of like, and I remember voting for NAFTA. It's like, oh, well, the president says that this is good, and I should vote for this, right? And it's like there was not a lot of information at the time, and you're like, okay, well, I guess this is a good thing, right? This is a free trade agreement. This is good, right? It's like, no, dude, that shit's not good. Like that that just like destroyed the working class. It dumped, cheap products on the Mexican market. It made people homeless and hungry like immediately, and then was followed by all sorts of, crazy legislation, three strikes and you're out, and the end of welfare was as we know it. It's just this domino effect that, anyone born after is just like, oh, that's just the way it is now.
Mhm.
you know, um, and trying to like take away the power of a government to decide, like, that decisions could now be made uh, by representatives behind closed doors if it interferes with, if an individual's country's laws interfere with making money. And it, that one was easier to pull off, right? Because there was no social media. It
yeah,
was
Yeah, I think
just
our time to make a decision has gone down. Like the attention span, like has gone down to just a couple of seconds. So controlling the narrative, really comes down to, like, we're almost like a meme culture now, that if you
Mhm.
have a meme of someone that explains a situation or gives a point of view across, the meme will travel further and faster than the truth
Mm-hmm.
will. And, the ability to make memes and be allowed to meme, that's all structured on different platforms. So you might have certain rights when it comes to a country that you live within, but as soon as you're on a platform and you're trying to take control of a narrative, your narrative might not be according to the standards of the platform you're on. So even though you would be allowed to talk about that in public, you can't talk about that on this platform. And so the
Right.
platform, it's like, has more power, and it's like,
Well, because
what.
it's not considered free speech. Like free speech, a lot of people confuse this and they say, "Oh, censorship, censorship." The only censorship that is supposedly bad, right, that we're supposed to fight against is when the government says that you can't say something.
Mhm.
Right? But if Facebook or X or anyone else decides like we're limiting the speech, they're a private company. So that's just called like bad editing. That's what Gary Trudeau would call it when the New York Times wouldn't run his Doonesbury cartoon. People say, well, they're censoring you. It's like, no, censoring is if the government says you can't talk about this. But if I want to say something and this private company says, hey, you can't do this, he said that's just bad editing. He didn't agree with
Mhm.
it. And the problem is when these companies get too powerful and control uh, too much of the bandwidth, and then because the idea is like if you don't like what the newspaper is publishing, you can go start your own, right? You're a free country. It's not,
Mhm.
it's like free to be successful, but you're free to starve too. So
But I think now, I mean, to the point of the meme, like the idea now isn't, if you don't like the newspaper, start your own. The idea now is, well, don't read the newspaper. The meme's going to give you everything you need to know. And every
right.
argument now, you don't have an argument. I remember growing up, and I didn't understand it at the time, but my grandparents were very well educated, and they read the newspaper every day. And there would be discussions at the dinner table when I was over at my grandparents' house with aunts and uncles and my dad, and they're talking politics and they're talking what's happening, and they're open discussions with big ideas. And now everybody argues in headlines. You don't get past the headline because that's all you
Mhm.
absorb. And I think part of the platform to me was making a conscious decision to, we don't want people to know all the information. We want the people to know the one thing we want them to know, because the further they dig, the further into it they get, the more knowledge they'll have about the actual topic. So now we get people arguing headlines and not arguing facts, or arguing even fully thought out
Right.
opinions. And
Well, it's not even just a headline, but it's also these ad campaigns
Mhm.
from the political sponsors. And so, there was a documentary that was like the same ad company that did Brexit did Donald Trump. And they do this thing where it's like they come up with like 100 different slogans, and then they buy ad space on all of those, and then people whatever people veer towards, that's how they landed on drain the swamp, make America great again, is because that's what everyone resonated with. And then they put all their money into that. And then, but then also, Zuckerberg allows everyone to lie.
Yeah.
Like you can just like lie, put $1 million behind that ad campaign that just like is just a blatant lie.
Well, to him, I
But they're
think,
allowed to change the consciousness of the political landscape. Like it's totally insane.
I think from his perspective, as long as we're doing all of this on the platform like Facebook or
Yeah.
Instagram, that's all he cares, and
Yeah.
that that type of level of emotion creates their platforms to be very very sticky, and so I think Zuckerberg's motivation right now, I think, is to and it's beyond me like how this is going to be a help for society, but it's like to create these ghosts of personalities, these AI agents within Facebook and Instagram that they're just AI personalities that are very accurate to how humans interact. And so every person who's on Facebook just kind of has a cloud of these AI people supporting um, him. So, and then so that your user experience when you go on to Facebook or Instagram, you post a picture, you post a video, he's extracting information out of that to make his AI bots seem more real and kind of create this shell around and user experience around each individual person on the internet.
But all we're doing
And
is
I
creating
don't,
echo chambers, like, and like that's the
yeah.
crazy thing is like what if I use Chat GPT to, for example, we're thinking about getting a new cat, and there's a picture of a cat. And my wife we're bouncing names, and she says, "Put in a Chat GPT. Let's see if Chat GPT can come up with a name for the cat." I'm like, all right, this will be a fun experiment. Let's see what this does. So we put it in, and it asks all these questions, and you're going down these rabbit holes. I also realize I'm burning up the Colorado River to come up with the name of the cat. I know I'm a shithead. I apologize to nature for that, but whatever. Uh, but as you go through this, it's learning what you like and what you want to hear. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, what about this name? And immediately, oh my God, that's the best name I've ever heard. Should we follow this? And so essentially, everything you type into Chat GPT, it's reaffirming your opinion of what you just said. And it's trying to,
Mhm.
it positively reinforcing you. Like, it's really interesting to go through these things. It positively reinforces you to
Well,
think
that's
that
the
you're
that's the best way to addict you to it to get you to go
exactly
back and keep using it. And
right.
that's how it
Mhm.
gets
And
monetized,
it
right?
becomes these echo chambers of yourself back to you. The same thing with the Facebook, right, where it's
Mhm.
learning you, so it's echoing yourself back to you, so you're not really growing and developing and learning, you're just talking to
Yeah.
yourself.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
So
it's also driving a wedge in between everyone's shared reality.
Hmm.
sure.
And,
Mhm.
and when everyone has their own personalized reality,
And
uh,
but a lot of this is because we have not adapted to the technology yet. So, you know, Madison Avenue and the ad companies knew more about psychology, than the psychologist did because they paid for all the studies.
Hmm.
So they were always, a decade ahead of the actual universities and psychologists that were doing all the studies. So it's like, you know, they found that no one drank Coca-Cola in the winter. So what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to like take this Santa Claus. Like, most people don't know that the Santa Claus with the white beard and the big fluffy dude with the, red outfit is is a character from a Coke ad.
Santa Claus is
Like,
Mhm.
traditionally green. He wears
I, I,
green.
yeah, I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
there's so many traditions in that, like they're just crammed into that. But that is Coca-Cola's masterful creation of
Hmm.
putting him in a red and white outfit that is the same color as the can, and it's so. But most of us have sort of caught up with advertising. And advertising, for the most part, doesn't really work on most people. Like we all, even though we might not know the word, we all understand the concept of puffery. Puffery, though, like I think the legal definition is like I have my pizza place and it's like Dove's Pizza, we're the best in the world. It's like, well, the courts have said that that's an opinion, right? I don't have to back that up. If I say that the soda that I'm making is safe to drink and it's not, then I'm liable. But
Mhm.
if I'm giving an opinion, if I'm saying like, hey, this is going to bring you happiness and this is the best pizza or the best car, starting with like print ads and radio up until TV, most of that doesn't work anymore, right? But it really did back then. Companies who advertise, here's my little jingle and do 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 do, and you're gonna buy do do do, right? And then you're like, holy shit, we gotta go buy that. That's amazing, right? Because the psychology was so far ahead of where the culture was. And right now, the culture is really behind the technology. Like most people don't know what is actually happening to them because
They
they're
just know that the Earth is flat.
okay, right. And
So
and
are you
so
saying Santa's not real?
I
Not
did
the red
not say
one.
that.
Just the
Oh,
green
the
one.
red one. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the Grinch.
Wow. Um I was going somewhere with this, but got derailed.
Sorry.
Um so it's gonna take time for the culture to catch up with the technology and for you to be able to hear, facts and say that's not true, right? So,
You know,
but
yeah.
think about how well propaganda worked during World War II, World War One, but like
How
what
well it continues to work today.
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
different. It's more advanced, and we get sort of numb to it. And I was at a book fair. Scott, you might have been with me. I don't know. And my kid was there, and out here in Southern California is a print museum. It's called the whatever Southern California Printing Museum, whatever it's called. And they um, see um, Uh, and so they bring like a printing press and like, oh, here's the Heidelberg press and this and whatever. And, the kids come up and take the piece of paper in it and they do the crank and they, show how the printing works and they sort of, archive all these different printing technologies. And what the guy just said to me in passing was sort of fascinating. He said, if you look at the history of Europe right after printing was invented, right? He said, it's the same thing that's happening now is there was a huge influx of all of this information, and right-wing governments sort of took over everywhere in Europe because people were just being, they were not immune to this propaganda. And he likened it to like today, and at least for the past, 10 years, however long since, when did Facebook start?
Wasn't it 2003? And
2003.
but
So
the smartphone era has been since 2016 though. Like
2016. So,
the reels.
somewhere in there starts this era of, these right-wing political movements that is spearheaded by the confusion of this technology. The same way people didn't, were just started like, here's this newspaper and look what I've written. And obviously I wrote it and you read it, so it must be true. And it really we're going to have to catch up a little bit and hopefully we don't destroy ourselves in the meantime,
I
right?
saw it on Facebook. It's
To
true.
to be able to read something and then say like, oh, that's really great that you wrote this. Good for you for constructing a sentence and putting the letters together and printing it on a piece of paper and then selling it to me and then I read it, but it went into my mind and actually you're full of shit. That part hasn't happened yet. It's still
I think it's really close when the AI videos become like undetectable. I think
Mhm.
that's when people are gonna be like,
They just won't believe
I
anything.
I don't believe anything that I see now,
Right.
and so now I don't believe anything.
Well, and
You
that's
know,
I
that's
think
already the
that
defense
might be
being
the
used.
breaking point where people are like, I have to actually be a little vigilant with what I believe. anymore,
Well, I like
or they'll just get swallowed up
I
whole
sort
I,
of
by
I have faith.
AI.
I do have faith that people figure out like what to believe. It's my concern more is
I know.
us being all like herded like cattle into these different platforms, and our reality is kind of uh, determined by what the values or the rules of engagement, terms of engagement with these platforms are. So, like, because these platforms are kind of removing other institutions that used to be in our life too, like
Mhm.
just the at retail, our ability to buy stuff at retail anonymously with cash, and not have all of our kind of likes and interests or where our eyes are going in the store or on the page, not be kind of monitored to see what objects you're gonna or items to throw in front of us. I think these platforms are really hurting us into these kind of gated communities, and I worry less that we would be able to work it out as individuals as really what are the interests of the platform too. OpenAI can create a platform that steals everything on the internet, and then create a product that puts all these people out of business. And Mark Zuckerberg can say his AI, yeah, even though it's intellectual theft, anybody's individual thoughts are probably only worth about $200. Well, we're not getting like
Oh,
founders, members stock of like $200 worth of Facebook. Like if you would have gotten $200 worth of Amazon stock when it first came out, it would be worth about $400,000 to $500,000 now. So like if OpenAI is going to and Facebook are going to steal $200 from every person on Earth, like we should at least get $200 of stock in their company from the very beginning, and then
Mhm.
like maybe that's worth the $500,000 later on. This initial minuscule $200 of theft that they're doing from us, but I worry about like once we're all on these platforms, once we're using it, even a platform like Adobe, like they monitor a lot of what artists are doing. You have to have you used to be able to buy a disc and have your Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator at home and have it on your private computer and use the old version as long as you want. And now you just have to have everything on a service, and they're monitoring everything that you're doing on Adobe inside their platforms to train their AIs as well. So it's like, how is that fair to creatives to help them train creative AIs to do exactly what they're getting paid to do
I mean,
currently? So,
ultimately, it's going to be up to the government, Congress and the courts to decide, if that's okay and what, you know, because my son's messing around um, with AI and using AI to create an app to create other stuff.
mhm.
I was like, "What? You're 12. Like, what do you mean what are you doing?" He's like, "Well, yeah, so it's going to help me make an app to make, other games." Like, "What?" Like, what? Like, okay, hold it. Like, what do you know about? He's like, "Hey, look, this did it for me." Like, oh, okay, fine. I'm old, whatever. Um, I, yeah, I mean, it's the society's going to have to decide. The culture's going to have to make a decision, and the courts and about what belongs to who, because we've up until now we've had a pretty clear, idea of what belongs to. And this is interesting, and it goes back into the toys, and literally like every toy that we sell, when an artist borrows from pop culture and makes something, changes it and makes it sort of their own and has transformative properties. Well, is AI making stuff transformative?
Mm.
Like I don't know the answer to that. But I'm not so worried about me. I'm worried about the younger kids.
That's what my sister
That
is a copywriter who works for on really high profile companies and creator she's creative director and copywriter in advertising. And I was talking to her a lot about AI stuff, and she summed it up really well where she said, you know, it's crazy that you can type in her name and it can spit out a commercial in her style. But it's
Yeah.
still not her, right? So
sure.
people are still going to hire her to do it. She says, so I'm not worried about me as much. I think she is worried about her, but she's worried about are the junior writers, right? Because that's what it's getting rid of. And when she retires, there was nobody trained to do her job because they fired all the junior writers. They use AI to do the early writing stage stuff, and then they hand it to the higher ups. And when
Yeah.
they leave, nobody learned the process. There were no
I,
apprentices.
yeah,
And
I'm
that's
not
when it all, I feel like that's when the creative process really crumbles, is when you're
right.
not passing it along, you know?
I'm like I said, I'm not worried about me. Like the meme that I saw on Instagram the other day, the little short clip was that how, Gen X that grew up playing Mario and Zelda. Did you see this one?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
And all of these games where when you died, you had to start over and sort of
Mm.
like the grit that it created where you had to like continue and you had to figure out how to solve the problem compared to the modern video games where it's like, oh, I just buy more credits and then I'm alive again, and then it's, well, the arrow's here and then I go here, and there's no problem solving and you can just keep playing the game forever, and there's no problem solving. There's nothing creatively going on. It's just meant to keep you there playing as long as possible, dopamine after dopamine hit, and it never ends. And so
Mhm.
you could sit there for 8, 12 hours and just keep going. And that's what they want. It's sort of like like all the bad sci-fi novels and movies that all predicted that this was going to be it, that all of us sitting
But
in a chair
to
staring
be
at a screen.
fair, if you went back to when we were all playing Super Mario Brothers,
Mhm.
and the generation before that was like, and they go, these kids, they play these video games, they don't understand how to, like th that posed a different problem
Agreed.
back then.
Mm.
And now it's like, well, back in my day, we played Super Mario Brothers without a game genie.
We
And,
played
Right.
Tenpei and we
like
loved it.
we suffered for our Super Mario World.
Well,
So,
you know what I have to say? Thanks for tuning in to DKE Toys, where we talk about
We
toys.
well, we're
uh,
talking about the platform Prince. I don't know. I thought the book was fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was one of the
I want to
only
invite.
pickups at Designer Con. I knew it was the first thing that I went for.
Thank you. I'm going to have a follow up book. It's more of like a narrative of. It's going to be kind of like Dante's Inferno. So it'll be like two guys going through the layers of hell. So it's going to like deal with the concepts of the platform prints, but like kind of put it in like a world where you kind of go through hell and kind of see these things play out in the future.
I
So I've
I
already like
just had a realization, Kevin, that as we're talking about all of this, you've got a book based off Machiavelli and now a book based off Dante's Inferno. So we're still referencing and referencing and referencing. We're always
yeah.
spiraling in reference.
So, so for the people watching,
Eternal themes.
Eternal
I,
Mm-hmm.
ass- I assume
Yeah.
that by we're going to be out of this figure in this book. Where can people buy the book to reference what we're talking about? Because the book obviously,
KevinEslinger.com. So
there you
just like
go.
my name, yeah. It's up there. It's
Boom.
right on the front page, so you'll be able to find it.
and
So
it is a I don't want to say a quick read in that it's not thoughtful, but it's not like you're sitting down and committing to like
100
weeks
pages.
of reading. Yeah, like it's and it is it's interesting how it engages you. Like at first I felt like it's a little repetitive. Why? And then that repetition. And I even texted Scott. I was like, "Did you find this being repetitive?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like keep reading because it sort of develops a rhythm, and then it got us into a discussion about AI and how AI is repetitive, and then the themes just keep getting reinforced. And I really have enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. And genuinely, get this book and read it because there's a lot going on here that is interesting and thoughtful and really well presented. And dude, you're right, a goddamn good sentence. Let me tell you, you have some beautiful. You write a really beautiful sentence, and that makes it more fun to read.
I did make it repetitive. I assumed people are going to like pick it up and put it down, even though it is 100 pages. And really, if I any one of the chapters gets the entire idea across, but I think I sliced it up into the different aspects that it's going to come at us. So I use a lot of the same examples over again in each one of the chapters because I thought they were, and you know, that's probably to my detriment too, because it does make it repetitive.
No,
but
but
anybody could
Just in
take.
case people are picking up their phone and in the middle while reading.
Ah, it is.
Did you see the Matt Damon quote about making a show for Netflix?
Oh yeah, that's
That was amazing. So like the way they structure shows for Netflix are completely different than, standard movies. There has to be like a big, gotcha explosion or something in the beginning. And then every major theme has to be repeated 3 or 4 times because they assume people are on their phone and they will miss it. So
yeah.
the new like new television is being created specifically for people to be on their phones while they're consuming this other.
Well, and the points that are repetitive in my book are the points that I really wanted to get across, no matter what the like chapter you were in. So you could read one chapter and the epilogue, so and get the whole sense of the book.
But
And
no,
then
because
like
honestly, like what I called repetitive after the first couple chapters became rhythmic. And that's a difference. That is a writing thing where there's like this flow that you now feel and the flow is moving. And like I said, you write a really beautiful sentence. So what started to me feeling repetitive literally became a rhythm. And that rhythm guides you through the book as you go. I'm genuinely really really glad that I've read this and will finish reading it and like no bullshit, this was, it presented things that I've already been kind of thinking in a way that made me think about it more and think about it deeply and dare I say poetically at times. And I will absolutely read the next book that you write because I really enjoyed getting through this or getting almost all the way through it. I'm close to the end.
And tune in next week for DKE Toys Book Club, where we don't talk about toys at all. We're just gonna review books. We'll call it the DKE Toys Book Circle.
There we go.
I like
Toys are
that.
done. It's now books.
It's now books.
It's fucking
Toys
amazing.
based on books.
We're going to read the Vader Project for next episode. So everybody
You know
buy a
what's-
copy of the Vader Project.
You know what's fascinating to me, Kevin? It's fascinating that these two guys read the book. I apologize. I did not read the book before this interview, but that the assumption of most people when you say, "Oh, I wrote a book." "Oh yeah, where did I find it?" "Oh, I self-published it. It's on my website." Most people go like, "Oh yeah, great. Like I'm gonna go read that," right? And to have, Janky and Scott like just have both read it and are like so like effusively like just in what's the world like just they're in it, right? I mean, that is quite an accomplishment. You have like two grown adults here who are jaded as fuck, right? Who just, like I can send them memes on Instagram, and what it takes to make them laugh is just
That's because we played Zelda and kept dying, and we've just grown this thick skin. And
right. Yes, indeed. Well, Kevin, I don't know what to say. one of the most talented people that we work with. You make figures, of course, for us, and then write books because what the fuck. And then now you paint and you make electronic lightsabers, and it's like
I
you
didn't make the lightsaber. That Brian Ono. I just brought it out and showed it off. I haven't talked about the archaeology trip that I was on this year too. So,
All right,
Well,
what was that? What was the
welcome to
term you came
DKE
up that I
Toys
loved? What was that fucking
Archaeology.
archaeology term?
huh? Oh, you said speculative archaeology, or I said
yes, I love this
yes.
term. Okay.
So, yeah. So my ancient alien experience with, I told him from the very beginning, like, I don't believe in aliens. I already went through this in my early 20s. I did a lot of research on, forums and talked to a lot of different people. I sculpted an alien. I made products of aliens. I don't believe in aliens at this point in my life. And if that's going to play a factor, you probably saw that I do a bunch of sci-fi stuff. You're probably interested in what I'll say that might be outlandish or stupid. But I'm really going to side with the archaeologists on this show. And they were like, no, we still want you. And, whatever. They didn't ultimately, which I knew from the beginning. But I made friends with one of the archaeologists on the show, and he invited me to come to Sacsayhuaman. He had worked on Puma Punku for 20 years. And so he saw that, the things I was doing with Puma Punku were interesting. He gave me a lot of data from his years of working on it. And then he was like, do you want to come to the Inca capital? Like, the Inca capital was in Cusco and Sacsayhuaman. It was this fortress on a hill, and it's been like really reduced to just foundation stones. And so he invited me to this dig that they got permission to do, and 3D scan the entire site. And then we've been doing kind of. My dad is a structural engineer, so I asked him, if there's a bunch of footings left over, can you estimate wall height based upon footings? And he taught me how to do the calculations. So really, I went over to Bolivia or to Peru and Cusco, got all the scans, made all the calculations, kind of extracted a structure out of the foundations that are still there. And one of the reasons why I didn't go to, or the reason why I didn't go to Designer Con this past year, because I just gave up $1,000 booth at the last minute, is because I was asked to speak at this Andean conference at the University of Pennsylvania with some of the students from the dig about the work that we had done, and kind of gave a report that weekend. So I basically gave up an entire weekend of Designer Con to give a 15-minute speech at the University of Pennsylvania. But it was just kind of like a feather in my cap that I wanted to do. I wanted to like go from being interested in art to kind of learning about archaeology, kind of doing something that isn't based on a fictitious subject matter. Like, I want to do visualizations and help like a science or something that has meaning and is in a fictitious world. Because I've really gotten burnt out on pop culture probably over the last 5 years, and I just wanted to I thought these ancient societies have such interesting stories that I would get into that and find characters and make toys and kind of like ideas and products off of that, and kind of learn what really happened, work with actual archaeologists, and make kind of some cool product off of it. So yeah, that's what I do. Kind of like I've been spending a lot of time in the world of 3D making world building kind of stuff. Like I use this program called Unreal Engine and Blender, and you can build everything 1-to-1 size. I use those programs to make products in the real world too. That's one of the projects that I was talking about at the beginning. That like I had a celebrity client that I went and 3D scanned earlier in the year and made a head bust for. They had an event, and so they wanted a sculpture for every guest in every room of themselves,
Whoa.
full size, out of polystone. And so it's like this world building in 3D kind of lends itself to all these different paths for development. And so, yeah, this celebrity, so I went over to one of his houses and scanned his head, and then brought it back and kind of chopped it up and basically made a master replicas level product for him for his event. And
Wow.
we delivered it and put it into every one of the rooms.
There was,
And
sorry,
it,
there was a bust of the person who hired you in every room of the house.
yeah, he was celebrating in it was every room of a hotel. So
Every room of a hotel.
Celebrating his
a
massive ego.
very swanky hotel,
Uh-huh.
and they had like these Greek sculptures over the hotel room. And so I went out there and I matched like this is the so this is getting back on track with toys. So this is what the base like. So I have like a sticky note over the name, but it's kind of like a master replicas plaque that I did. And I put his name on the plaque. And this is an oak base, which was similar, and we made these in Colorado here. And I made the first prototype, but then I had a factory help me with that. And then, I cast his head, or I scanned his head. I molded and casted it in a big giant thing of silicon. And I did each individual casting of the head out of polystone or hydrocal. And so I had 100 of them like drying, and it's a little bit bigger than this, put together, right? So it's like probably that big put together, and then did it within 3 months. Got all 100 done, got all put together, had a big master replicas type box in it with a big foam insert and a nice presentation with like gold foil on the front. Yeah. And so, where I'm going with that is like, I do a lot of stuff now in 3D technology and with 3D technology. And I think the programs have gotten to the point where I'm just fascinated by the world building and and I say everything you can create now can show up really realistically in almost real time on your desktop. So I have, one of these NVIDIA GPU computer. I have 2 of them. I have a laptop, and it just, the programs like Unreal Engine and Blender and the results that you can get in a 3D space as an artist, it's like, it's taking a sketchbook in a way and turning it into like a 3D world in my mind when I work in these programs. And so I'm able to do a lot more visualization than I was before these programs. So.
We're almost 2 hours into this discussion, and I feel.
I'm sorry.
No. I feel like we just scratched the surface on what Kevin has to offer. Talking about.
I knew that would happen.
Yeah,
I know.
of course.
This is amazing. This whole conversation has been.
Did you get to go to the party?
I got to stay at the hotel. So the entire hotel was bought out, but they had a couple of rooms that you could stay at this very swanky hotel. It was about, I won't say this, but anyways, it was a very nice hotel. I was able we set up. We had a day of stationery and stuff. My wife and I run a stationery company. That's what Lucky Onion is now. So we do a lot of stationery and stuff too for events. These high-end, just very unusual events. So we set up the entire like party, and we got to see all the bands practicing on stage, which was very cool. But like to go to the party, nobody could go to the party. Only the people invited could go to the party. So,
Wow. All right, so we're having a Kevin episode 2 at some point.
I guess
Literally,
so.
like we're just started getting into the world here.
When the Dante's Inferno book.
Right.
I'll try to get that done for the toy line this year. So I'll have a book and another figure later on this year.
Man,
Amazing. All right, just got a couple other things to cover here. There's a couple things that we haven't done a show since our live show for DCon. One of the really fun things about doing a live show with all these other artists is at the end of the show, they hand me a bunch of their toys and say, "Here, do you want the rest of these?" And then I'm a sucker and I'm like, "Yes, that would be amazing."
Yay.
And so Rika showed up with a set of these guys,
They're so
and
good.
they are called Cultivator Aliens by Rika here. And
cool.
he did the 4 Cantina aliens. If you can see that, this comes off. So here's a little. These are on the site right now. They're signed on the back. That's the Snaggletooth version, and here's a. They all come with their little domes. It's the Walrus Man. They
I
are.
have one.
They're not numbered, but they are limited. I just don't remember how to what, but they're $65 each. Here's this little Greedo. And of course,
They look even better in person. Like,
That's cool. Oh, that's my
these
favorite.
things are adorable.
yeah,
I think there's 6 pieces of each style.
something like that. And then they come in a bag and header card, cultivator right there. And then Edwin Salas handed us a stack of stuff. These are on the site now. This is Darth Metal. How much is it? This is $40. This guy right here.
Mhm.
Episode 6666.
Oh, yeah.
This is Tu Padre. Soy Tu Padre Cabron. Sorry. What we called it on the website, we didn't use the bad language. These are 60, and then he made these Salas Wars figures,
Oh, that's
which are fantastic pieces. These are $60. And as you know, he makes these in wood. And each one, when he makes whatever the edition was, if he makes 10 of them, it means he's actually sculpting 10 pieces by hand. This is, coming from Kevin, who's like the most high tech, going to like the most low tech staple to a piece of cardboard here. So there you have it.
Carved a piece of wood with a rock.
With a rock.
He carved
Indeed.
it with an effects lightsaber, just chiseling away.
I
Um,
love that guy.
fantastic work. The Rich and Nick over at the Secret Compartment show made this promo card here.
That's the funniest. Those guys are so funny.
It is so
that's
fantastic.
a good
Oh my
reference.
god!
And so for those of you who don't know the reference, I brought this. This is the original C-3PO
yes.
penis card from 1977.
It's so hard to get now. It's ridiculously expensive.
And then there's
Really?
there's
Yeah.
a corrected version where they airbrushed
Yeah.
said phallus.
Boo! Give us the
Yeah.
dong. There we go.
That's right. So anyway, they gave us 100 of these. So the next 100 orders that go out get this promo for free.
Next 99, I need one.
It's ROM. So like ROM, their show Secret Compartment is a funny toy show too, but like their like announcer is ROM, and he's like a pissed off robot.
Right.
We're on the Space Knight, right?
It's a really, really funny show.
Also,
really creative.
Also in these little packets I made, there's this GPK card of the Sucklord. So the next 100 orders, those packs are already made. I sat there, I put all sort of vintage cards in there. There are little bags, and stickers, and all sorts of fun stuff. So you get one free with each order.
You can do some of your own speculative archaeology, opening them up.
Whoa. What else? Before I do the closing stuff, Kevin, just let us know what else is going on. What's the future holding aside from writing another book?
Yeah, I'm probably going to go back to Cusco later on this year and do more work there, and then kind of do more 3D work with that. As far as my toys go, I've want to do that Inferno book, and then I've been working on cryptids too. I have like this cryptid castle type thing, and I'll probably have videos of that up soon. Cool. I have and then I actually have 2 websites. So sometimes I put stuff that I think is going to be too action figure-y on my action figure 1978 Instagram profile, which I just do anonymously as a toy guy. So that's like action figures 1978 on Instagram, or on kevineslinger.com. If I think I'm getting a little artsy with it and it's too much for the pop culture audience, it goes on kevineslinger.com or Eslinger Art Instagram. So
we could dissect the platformingness of what you just said for hours.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I also have a YouTube, Eslinger Art on YouTube too, which you can see all the speculative archaeology videos on there too.
Yeah, speculative archaeology.
That's amazing. We can't wait for you to write more books to inspire yourself to do other work.
Yeah.
That's called speculative literature. It's
So for all you slackers who don't want to get off the couch, this dude wrote a book to inspire him to do other things. So go fuck yourself.
Just me yelling into the void. Like, I matter. I matter. Like, listen to me.
Unbelievable. All right. You guys got anything you want to talk about before we go?
I was on the recent episode of Toys on Tap, episode 260, I think. And Abe always manages to somehow get the best out of me. So I think we had a really good conversation about toys and marketing toys in this scene. And we got real deep into AI and like the nature.
It was a good talk.
Thanks. It was fun. I didn't expect it to go nearly as long as it did, and I really enjoyed that conversation. So anyone that wants to hear me pontificate can go listen to Toys on Tap. And I announced my next project there, which is Major League mustaches and Major League Mullet trading card sets.
Nice.
So you can hear me talk about that.
Wow.
Dov knows all about that. I've been asking him questions about that for a while now. But
Major League mustaches. Yeah. Unbelievable.
3-dimensional cards with fuzzy mustaches. It's one of the chases.
It's next level. Do you have one you can show?
I don't. I'll put a picture up. I meant to bring one and genuinely thought we were filming next week and not this week. So I left it at home. But I will send a picture that can be inserted here.
Nice. Scott, what you got going?
barbarianrage.com. Go. I have a weekly newsletter. I write hot toy gossip, upcoming shows, exclusive drops. And last week I published some of my sculpting journal. I'm sculpting a new toy. Yeah, I might publish that book.
Do it.
I want to see more of those mad balls. Yeah, I loved your drawings. So
yeah, that was the sculpting journal where I'm like, I have to do this toy, and I'm like, well, let me draw a little bit first, and then I'm like doing a painting, and I'm like, this is not the new toy. I go, why am I doing this? Like, it's such a distraction. Anyway, so
that was your version of writing a book for yourself, Scott.
Yeah. So
collateral for something.
Some people write books to inspire themselves. Other people paint paintings to inspire themselves. Like,
it wasn't an inspiration. It was a distraction. The rest of the journal is, look at what a loser you are. You can't even sculpt a fucking toy.
Wow.
There's a lot of that. Pages and pages of that. But nice. There's sneak previews and stuff like that on my newsletter. And I have some shirts, toys, whatever's available is on my website, barbarianrage.com. I have I'm designing a new hat for everyone to not buy.
Ooh.
So look forward to that.
Sweet.
That's it. I came up with that today.
Genki will wear it.
I totally wear it. 100%. I wear my other Barbarian Rage, not today, but in public.
I will never wear it because my head's too big.
You know, they make them adjustable, Dove.
Mhm. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you, gentlemen.
There we are.
So if you mention DKE Toys TV in the notes of your next order, we will give you a free invisible Sucklord figure. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at DKE Toys, subscribe on YouTube at DKE Toys. If you're happy with DKE Toys, leave us a Google review. Always helps business. Have nice Google reviews. If you have something nice to say, please say it. It's always helpful. You can talk about the show, whatever you like. If you are unhappy with us, just go
Falling
away.
right into
Just
their hands,
just go
Dove.
away.
See, this is why you need to. This is why this is important. This
Yeah.
is
If you
why
want to
this is
reach,
important, my friend.
if you want to reach Jenky, talk about the show, you have questions or comments or anything on the air for Jenky to read, that's dketoystv@gmail.com. If you want to reach me, dketoys@gmail.com. And Kevin, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. It's always so much fun to catch up with you. It's like to find out that someone was like so, integral to like your formation of as a person in business, and then like meet the person later, and you even like sell me muscle figures to finish my set. It's like how many things can this one person do? It's like I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys. Thanks for being on the show, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Yeah.
Wow.